Starts with, I don't know who, but then it goes to Tom picking up oranges, and they were in California, obviously. This is right around the same time as the ducks. You know, they're that same age, I guess, as the Easter films. This is a view you can see down to the ocean. Must be Redondo Pier. Jerry always got a kick out of. Grandpa McLean says they live in Redondo Beach. Redondo Beach.
Is that Redondo Pier still there?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. They've got a big Manhattan Pier and a Redondo Pier. This is, Steve told me, I didn't know, this is Universal Studios. And Dad took him to Universal Studios when he was a kid.
Yeah, I have no memory of this trip. I was too young.
And you just saw this sign that said Universal Studios, huh? And then Hollywood Bowl.
Is that still there?
It's still there. One of these videos had him go into the Rose Parade. And
there's the Hollywood Bowl, huh?
Yep. There's Helen with Dad and Bruce, and then our cute little Steve with his Easter eggs.
Now we're, because
back
of these cuffs, we're back in Murray.
Whose dog is that?
Helen's and Aunt Betty, when she was probably the single woman with her nice tiny waistline. And women wore corsages. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if my mom had made those corsages, because she used to make a whole lot of them and sell them. And she'd make them as gifts. And I wouldn't be surprised if she made those for everyone.
There's my dad wearing a blue double-breasted suit. And he's a good-looking guy.
Dapper.
We got ducks that Easter. And
Mama's got her hair all pretty. That was before it even turned gray. And she had it up in her pretty braid. And my whole life long, it's up in her braid. Nobody knew she had hair about down, the bottom of her butt. Her hair was so long. But it was always braided and put up in a bow every single day. She had this white ivory comb, and then she'd take that hair out and comb it with this white ivory comb and braid it to the front to sleep, and then in the morning she'd recomb it and rebraid it. You had an Easter egg hunt and you're throwing eggs at the dog, but very gently. Had a ball with those little ducks. They were happy in the pen, and everyone was having fun with ducks. It's funny, probably, 15 years later, I got little ducks for Easter one year, too.
this is there's a picture of a cat here, and I've seen the rest of this footage, and I believe that this is my mother's dad, Grandpa McLean, playing with the cat.
It's sure his hand and mannerisms. Yeah, exactly. As soon as you said that, yeah, that looks like him. We had lots of cats and kittens growing up. We played with lots and lots of cats. And I remember the one time Grandma McLean was coming. Oh, here's stockings that Helen made. They got put up every single year. She only made 4. See, that was when only you and Tom were there. They were great stockings. She did a beautiful job on them. There's my dad, Mom.
I still have that Christmas stocking that Aunt Helen made.
And you still put it up.
Yep.
I remember string and Christmas. There was string, and we'd hang Christmas cards. People used to send probably had 100, 200 cards.
Yeah. Look at all
People would write each other, and you'd keep up to date with each other writing cards.
Dad,
There's
May.
May and Ray Hughley. Ray was May's first husband, and there is Dave Kemp as a boy. Dave Must have been Dave hugely at the time. May said she divorced him. She realized it was probably post-traumatic stress, that she married him right after World War II, and that he jumped any sounds, and he had to go out where it was with friends and noise and movement, and she realized later it was really probably very strong post-traumatic stress. There goes to Jack Nyland, and they had puppies, and boy, they had fun with those little puppies, and they're enjoying these little puppies. Tom's playing with the puppy here, and Helen talked about those puppies for years. She had a lot of fun with them, and there's Steve and Jack, and then Helen and her dogs. She loved her dogs, or Jack and his dogs. Steve and Jill just went to Jack's house this week and said their house is filled with dogs still, and that I don't think there was ever a time in Jack's life he didn't have dogs, and Helen taught him that. Mom had her bright red lipstick and her red necklace, and thinking she was all that. Dad, every single time, Steve said every single time he goes down and shows her legs, and yeah, he sure did. And, what do you do when you're on camera all the time? So she pulled out her dollar bills and stuff.
This is a trip we took to Big Rock Candy Mountain, which is located in central Utah. It's a little resort community. It's still there, but back then it was a pretty big resort. They had a mountain lion in a cage, and there was a place that I remember called Lemonade Springs, and you'd wander around. They had this miniature zoo, and
they sold these little candies that looked like rocks and speckled different colors, and this is the only place I'd ever seen them, and we always loved that rock candy. Or I did. So I must have been taken there years after you and this one filmed. And we don't know who this friends were that were traveling with them, right? You don't know who they were either, right,
no,
Steve?
That's a memory that's lost.
Tom and then Steve walking up at you. This black that's reflecting, this was an old-time reel. They had those round reels on this motion picture camera that we had.
And I think we traveled to Bryce Canyon. I think that's what this footage is. It could be Cedar Breaks, but I think it's Bryce Canyon.
Yeah, I don't know either one, but probably Bryce, all right. And then later you see the Grand Canyon, right? There's Steve throwing rocks with those suspenders on. Keep those big pants up. He's a cute little guy.
Still am.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you are. Look at the roots of that tree. How big that tree must have been. Yeah, that's definitely Bryce. Hutus. Oh, squirrel. I was thinking that was a great big tree, and then there's a little tiny squirrel. You go down this canyon and wander around these magnificent Hutus. There's the squirrel again. We used to very patiently sit and feed them. We had them at our cabin, we'd feed, and I always had a big thrill having those little squirrels come eat out of your hand. How about you, Steve? There it was, eating out of the hand.
Picture of a bear trap there with a boot and a bone in it.
We had this old car and this trailer behind. Wasn't very big, and then everyone would curl up and sleep in that little thing, and they hauled it all around and have all your camp stove and boxes and everything in it, and then you curl up and sleep in it at night. There's Jack Turner as a young
Jack
guy.
Nyland.
Jack Nyland. And then
Yeah,
Tom.
we're back in California again, and there's a picture of Mom when she was probably, I'm going to say she was about 25 years old there.
Probably. putting her sweater on because it's San Francisco. It's cold.
You think this is San Francisco or L.A.?
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. Just a beach. I was thinking they always went back to visit her parents. Dad said, she didn't really want to leave San Francisco. She loved San Francisco. Oh, there's Goodyear Blimp, so it was L.A. And so Dad said he took her 4 times a year, or had her go about 4 times a year to visit her parents, 3 or 4 times a year for almost all of her life. I had a lot of visits to San Francisco in my life. See, I've never seen this one of you feeding the pigeons. You were very patient, Steve. They weren't coming up to you very well. You must have not had any good food.
There's a picture of Ray. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is a scout troop. Scout trip that we took to Shoshone Lake up in Yellowstone. There's a picture of some kayaks that we made as young boys.
In our garage. And our whole house smelled like fiberglass for months and months while they slowly put 1 layer at a time. And the whole scout troop hung around our house. And then we did, what was his name? Walking Horse.
Paul Walking Horse.
Oh, I had such a crush on that guy.
Craig Denny.
Steve had all these good-looking, fun friends that hang around at the house, and I was the little pesky girl. And then we'd build a bonfire at night and go play hide and seek in the field. And all the guys came to work on their kayaks and all hung out in our backyard. And there's a picture of them with Yellowstone and the bear.
Yep, we were in Yellowstone, and there's a bear begging for a snack. And we had to paddle across Lewis Lake and up a river to finally reach Shoshone Lake. And here's a picture of us in our kayaks paddling across the lake and up the river. That's an old fiberglass kayak that I built. And then there's a blue and white one that I also built later on.
Who's that? Who's riding in it? Someone from the ward.
We got Paul Walking Horse.
Paul Walking Horse lived down the street on the same street as us. But these are all guys from the ward. Butterfield, and I think the guy with the white hat was Butterfield, right?
Yeah, now this is a picture of me catching a fish in my old kayak. I don't know who's in the front there, but we just pulled in a fish.
I never built a kayak. All the boys did. All you Boy Scouts of America.
So your dad was a scoutmaster?
My dad was active in scouting, but he was never the scoutmaster.
I think with Bruce and Martin, he was a scoutmaster.
Might have been.
There's Tom. I recognize him from the ears. Even though it was a dark page, it was still Tom in his ears. And there's too dark to tell. There are other kids in the ward coming up.
This is a baby shower, and I think it's for my little brother Martin. Some of the neighborhood ladies getting together, being goofy. But in a minute here, there's a picture of a little baby, and I'm pretty sure it's Martin. There's my Aunt May.
No, it is.
That's not me, is it?
I think that's Martin.
That looks like Martin. It's not Bruce. It's not you or Tom. So that's absolutely Martin. Look, if you have diapers without plastic pants, and
He's crying.
poor little guy's crying. They're just taking a picture instead of comforting him. There's Steve tying his shoe. They're proud of you because you could tie your shoe.
Looks like I'm having trouble.
Good.
Good enough.
Yeah, Martin, baby Martin.
Martin crying and whining. He still does that a lot.
I bet you my mom made the little, she used to always sew clothes. I bet you she made that little outfit he was wearing. There's Dad reading a newspaper. Dad, look at that. Baby Bruce has learned to walk, and there's Steve in the background sending him. That is Bruce for sure. My dad called him Bruce the Moose.
Boy.
Right, Bruce Moose.
Bruce was always the toughest of all of us. He was just oblivious to pain.
Look at that cute Steven. Bruce
shot his foot once on accident. He was jumping over a ditch with a shotgun, and he shot his toes, and he could see he was bleeding. He didn't take his boot off. He just jumped on his motorcycle and drove himself over to the hospital, and there they took the boot off, and he'd shot off a couple of toes. That's how tough Bruce was.
Bruce was a tough guy. I have a little different version of that story. I'll tell Steve later, but I bet you Steve, he did 2 times where he shot himself.
This is Dad holding Bruce in his hands, standing straight up.
Dad did that with every little kid.
Yeah, he did
stand him in his hands. Did that with all your grandkids, didn't your kids?
And I did that with my kids.
And you did that with your kids. I saw Tom doing it. There's Stephen enjoying a book. Some little book that had a clear plastic picture for being 3-dimensional.